Namaskar. Welcome this evening to the collaborative series of dialogue, discussion, talks, etc., art matters, organized by the Raza Foundation in collaboration with the India International Center. We have been organizing this series for nearly 7 years, and because of the continuing pandemic situation, we have started now this online, which is not the best of modes, uh, but there's no way out. So this is the 72nd Art Matters, and we have been running a sub-theme taking the restrictions and isolation and disconnection that COVID had imposed upon us. So we have had panels discussing poetry in Corona times, dance in Corona times, and visual arts in Corona times. And this time we have chosen a rather unusual theme, relooking the materials for artistic language in Corona times. In our discussion and conversations, at least public conversations, we hardly pay any attention to the material that is used, or materials that are used uh, in various forms of artistic expression. Material is important. It is, in some ways, the choice of material determines the choice of art practice. Also, in some ways, it determines what's going to happen in terms of the usual tension between material and art practice. We have three eminent panelists to enlighten us about materials, artistic language in Corona times. Uh, we are very, very fortunate to have Mr. Rajendra Tikku, who is, of course, a Padma Shri awardee, had done a lot of innovative work in terms of choice of materials. Uh, he has been given Gottlieb Foundation, Paul Kessler Foundation, grants for advanced work in sculpture. He was given senior fellowship by the Government of India. He won the 8th Trinale India Award for Sculpture in 94, National Award for Sculpture in 93. His works are in the collections of NGMA, Lalit Kala Academy, Kiran Nada Museum, Alkazi Collection, LD Museum, Ahmedabad, Harmony Foundation, Mumbai, and many other museums in Switzerland, Israel, Croatia, besides Chandigarh, Udaipur, Mumbai, Baroda, Bhopal, Chennai, etc. So we are very grateful to Mr. Rajendra Tikku, who had come all the way from Jammu, because Jammu, the connectivity is very poor and undependable. Therefore, he had come to Delhi to take part in this panel. We have Kausik Mukhopadhyay, although born in Kolkata. When he was born, it was Calcutta, no? Now it is Kolkata. but he lives in Mumbai and he has selected solo exhibitions. Squeeze lime in your eyes. We just squeezed some lime in our tea, Mr. Tikku and I shared a while ago, uh, which was an exhibition held in 2009, guaranteed to work throughout its useful life. Pandol Art Gallery and the Guild Art Gallery, Mumbai 2000, Day and Night Show Piece, Lakire, Contemporary Art Gallery, Mumbai, select group exhibitions, Kochi, Kochi Biennale, Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, Shanghai Biennale, and Tate Modern London. And Samit Das, who helped us in putting together this panel, was born in Jamshedpur, has studied in Shantiniketan Kala Bhavan, and has also studied book arts, Camberwell College of Arts, London, under a Charles Wallace scholarship. He specializes in painting and later involved interactive artworks and artists' books. He has a broad interest in weaving history and archives and changing the language and material culture as a new visual vocabulary. His significant research on Shantiniketan architecture has been published in a book titled Architecture of Shantiniketan, a ghost concept of space. He has been awarded Pernod Richard Fellowship from Versailles, Paris. Uh, Also, he had research residency at Material Archive in St. Gallen and Herzog, Du Muron Archives in Switzerland, and he has, of course, exhibited in India and abroad. So we have three artists, one who lives in Jammu but is here with us today, other one who lives in Delhi, and the third one who lives in Mumbai. So we will start with Kausik Mukhopadhyay. Kausik ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ashok ji. I will start straight with the slides because I will show some of the works I done before Corona, and then one work I'm still doing and making it from the time when the lockdown started. Uh, I'm still working. I work every day a little bit because I do all manual labor alone. No carpenter, no help, nothing. It takes, it's taking a long. The work is quite biggish. So we'll start with the slides. I'll show what I do, or I did before I started this work. Yeah, you can start. Yeah. This is a old work done many years ago, basically from household objects and electric motor and things like that. And this is a switch which gets turned on by the movement of the train and switches on other things along the track. They're actually very simple motors and things like that, arranged in a complicated fashion. So it is mostly metal structure, metal rails, and I have taken, of course, I have to take a help of a fabricator. You can go to the next. This is actually two GI Joe soldiers, Chinese product. I filled them with wax and put a motor that so that it floats. There is a small motor. The white thing is a motor which makes it move. It's a pump actually, not a motor. And the music is made by from taking MP3 sounds from a game called Age of the Nation. It is called Balwan. The name came from the tub itself. So basically, depending on getting discarded objects or found objects from various places, or just ready-made
Nation has advanced from the medieval
objects.
age to the
Motor and pump and these things, electric circuits plays a big role in my work. And there is a player below. So there's a CD player which plays the sound with the as the motor pumps them around. They're not synchronized, but good synchronized because you always do that. Mentally, you always synchronize a sound with a movement. So that's the whole thing with the stool and the CD player. Mukul did the Obijit Mukul Kishore did the. You can go to the next. We are going into the net. So get out of that. Yeah, go to the slide. I think we are going back on the same thing. Yeah, yeah. This is it. Don't have any sound. It's just this is a wholly electrical circuit. This is a circuit that one below moving below, and it is a light tank. So it is various kinds of electrical light gathered, put in a circuit, and they move and comes like that, as if the tank is firing. It is also like a flowing all over the place. It is like the lights moving as if the light is throwing the cannon firing, and it is all going all over the place. This is actually in my studio. So again, lot of electrical goods, mechanical circuits, motors. Yeah, next, please. Yeah. This is in 2019, in 2017. This is a very large work actually, with 3 tables and lot of this electrical gadgets, household electrical gadgets that are thrown out. It is like that we are seeing that every 3 years we are having a new product. Sometimes it's just a 1 year, and the old one is rejected. And I actually didn't buy a single thing. I got it from all from my friends' house and students who they have given me the old thing they are not using or got spoiled a bit. I kind of try to repair it, put various other materials from other objects and make a kind of composite objects all over them. And there are 3 tables. You can go to the next, please. And they make a racket when they all the motors are working. So they all of them move. So the whole table starts moving at some point. Otherwise, they move one by one. I have a circuit that doing that actually. Then I'll show the circuit also. Next, please. Yeah, the second table. There are a lot of scanners, telephones, mixer grinder. What else? There are. Next, please. Yeah, the one part of the table. Printer. Inside of the printer. Next. Yeah, this is a toaster. There are other things like small printing machines, one whistle. Next, please. They all move. Yeah, this is actually a scanner. I opened the scanner and made a small train inside, which goes up and down. Next. Yeah, it will move. It is a video. So this is like a small composite. I use the same part of the scanner, and the train is made. So the train is just addition in the on the scanner, and it goes back and forth constantly. Next. Next, please. Yeah, this is another scanner which has water inside. So the water starts flowing through it with a pump, small pump below below the table. Next, please. Yeah, yeah. This is a table part with more objects. It will. I think the next slide will move actually. Yeah. So they all move like that. Sometimes the lights come on, things, things stop, and it starts again. So yeah, we can go to the next, please. So a lot of this various kinds of the that is a turntable ka part, which is became the central. Next, yeah, yeah. This doesn't move. This is just a headphone and a part of a iron. Next. This is the another side. There are I think 6 monitors, one microwave, one oven on a table. They're all blank, only the light inside. But the light, there are light in a row between them. Yeah, this is the same. Another angle of the picture. Next. And they're accompanied it with a shelf with more object, more the unused gadgets, disused gadgets, discarded gadgets like mouse, printer, computer, all stack up in very categorically on a shelf as if to be used later. So yeah, that board with the table. Next, yeah, detail of that. I think that is a mouse earlier that the control for a uh, video game. They don't use that is not used anymore actually. So next, yeah, a lot of these keyboards. I got so many keyboards from my friends that they get spoiled in like anything. So all this are gathered up and kept. Next, and that white thing is actually the timer. It is a it is half electrical, half electronic, and control all the table. Next, please. Okay, this is the work I'm doing in the time of Corona, and the completely changed. I can't go and buy material from because all the electronic and goods comes from. I have to go to the city. I stay away from the city in a place called Vasai, and Mumbai. I have to go to Lamington Road, which is in the heart of the city, to buy electronic goods, motors, everything. And so there is a lot of I found that I have something in the studio stored. There is always there from various exhibitions, leftover packing cases, lot of wood that has gone to make the earlier work, and they're all lying there. So I started using them, and I don't do so much of cutting, polishing, chiseling. I don't do that. So I started working with those, and then no, there is no electrical motors, no circuits, nothing. This is all mostly like sawing, cutting, fixing, and so the completely the material changed, and these pipes. There was some. This is an old ladder which has become the. I cut it and put it, or there is a pipe that pipe from the water system, that plumbing pipes. All these things that were lying in the studio, the material completely changed, and I was using things that I never used. So I think, and it is still going on. I don't know whether I'll ultimately use any of the material that I generally use when the time becomes normal. But because Samit pointed out, I also started thinking, oh God, my things are completely changed. That I am doing a very different, and also this physically doing things like the constantly getting cramped up in a place, not able to move out. I every day travel to the college. I'm doing not doing that, so that physically doing something became more exciting. Of course, I used to do the household work also because nobody was allowed to come in from the society didn't allow the maids to come. They locked the gate. So everybody sweeping, cleaning, doing buttons, cooking. I was doing plus this energy of cutting wood and polishing it. It takes a lot of physical attention. I was enjoying that. Again, might be as the things are getting normal, I might be able to go to the city again, buy things and start. Might be rework on this and make it mechanical, moving. I don't know. Yeah, thanks for that insight.
Thanks. Kaushik. I mean, from your moving and talking material earlier, you have now resorted to the unspeaking material, the silent material. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, in a way. So that's interesting. Now, Rajendra Tikku, please take over.
At the outset, I would like to thank Raza Foundation for having invited me to speak about. I had two reasons to participate. Number one was that Raza Foundation had invited me, and Raza, the name is synonymous with development of modern art in Kashmir. I mean, Raza was a Kashmiri in the sense that he lived in Kashmir before I was born. And whenever we talk of anything regarding art, Raza comes in automatically. So I'm so thankful to Raza Foundation to call me here. Number two, Mr. Ashok Vajpayee, when he communicated with me for the first time regarding this talk, he had picked up two issues. One was of material, and another was of space management through COVID. Material, I believe this is for the first time that somebody has picked up as sensitive issue as material used in arts. And as a sculptor, I, I feel material plays a much important role. And as he said in the beginning, that material sometimes decides what is to be created and what gets created also, and it commands for a long time. And unless and until you generate a kind of, you know, synchronization with material, it becomes very difficult to handle work. So these were my two main reasons, and I'll be reading some papers also. You'll have to bear with me. Uh, I found this quotation very interesting. There is nothing glorious about being a professional. Professionalism probably comes down to being able to work on a bad day. This is normal Mailer. In fact, we all had these bad times and which are still going on. And it became a kind of challenge. And especially at my place where materials are not generally available, and you have to look for something uh, with which you can work. And I did that to the great extent I could. And in between my work, I have the habit of making notes and writing certain things which just come to my mind. So, next, please.
Next.
This reads as, through times like this, when life clamors at deafening pace and is shut down, is when we see it from outside. We learn that it can be something set apart from ourselves. At times we feel fortunate to see that life is also gentle in its spate. Having trust in the area of human understanding that honors the ground on which we stand, and also the elements such as water, light, air, etc. It is this trust which identifies my stimuli in terms of ordinary things around, along with tangible and imaginary happenings and experiences. Enough. Temple, next, please.
Next.
You will come across a work after this. The existential stress as we have to pass through at times such as now makes each one of us the prisoner of something unknown and something heavy. Exercises as such, exercises as this one, which I carry on with these through these days, supposedly lighten this heavy. This is 14th April 2020. Now, coming to my materials, I had a bag full of hardwood branches, twigs, and forks with me. Using this material became an engrossing engagement through the yet passing lockdown. I did not find myself idling for any time. Uh, did did a work did a series of works which now I call as guide diagrams to pass through a lockdown. One of these works called as, next please. I believe that every work must have a potential to enhance our aspirational space and confirm our very existence. And that is also the need of our. Next, please. Now, this work is called as this, where I used these twigs. And I call this material as cured twigs. Cured means they have been seasoned. We season them technically by immersing them in water for a long time, and then it was just doing. It was just like doing some drawings on paper. So this work, which is done with cured twigs and Bhutanese handmade paper, is called as temple. If you go clockwise from top, this is called as temple, turbine, well, and cell. So this is just like transforming some play into metaphors, symbols, and signs, or broadly a possible form that has a sense of consciousness that honors life and warmth of human heart. Next, please. This is again with the same material, and it is called as a rib cage is also a reliquary. I mean, we remember in our head, we remember it with our mind, but we generally say, dil ki baatein, which means that there's a lot of things which we hide within our rib cage, and this is what I have tried to, I have tried to draw it with twigs, and you will find that the twigs are just natural, and there is a relic in the middle of this cage, which I call as rib cage, is also a reliquary, and because it contains so many things. Next, please. This is a detail of rib cage is also a reliquary, because I have used a little of gold leaf, a little of color, and some leather thongs in it in order to give it the shape of a relic, which is being, which is being fondled within the rib cage. Next. Next, please. This is the kind of display I have designed. It has not been, this work is being shown for the first time. This is how I have designed the display of this work. This will be on a pedestal and within a glass, within a glass cubicle, so that it is protected, because these works have been done with twigs and with very light material, so they have to be protected also. And these works are special because these have been strictly done to pass through the lockdown. Uh, I browsed through a number of publications which have come through the time of pandemic, and I found the works as usual, but I always wanted to do something entirely different from that which I was already doing, which I would be already doing. And at the same time, I had a chance, so I used it positively. I had a chance to uh, use a material which I got from somewhere, and then I try to put it in the best possible use. So that is how this body of work got evolved. Next, please. Now, I have used the metaphor of still life, but I now this work is called as a life still, because in the beginning of COVID, life had really become so still you could not hear even a sound from outside. And I live at a place which is otherwise isolated also, so you you barely talked with anybody, and you had this fair surrounding, and all that condition made life to stand still. So this is metaphorical of still life, but it's called as life still. And the materials again, cured twigs and Bhutanese handmade paper. I may tell you that ultimately this also will come in a because technically this comes to become a relief. This is raised, so it will be displayed in a glass uh, box like thing. Next, please. I wrote these notes in between, transforming some play into metaphors, symbols, and signs, or broadly, a possible form that has a sense of consciousness that honors life and warmth of human heart. Something unseen, something unknown. I think the visual follows. Next, please. There is something unseen, something unknown, very abstract shapes which do not have, you know, any point of reference in the outside world. So I played with these and treated them as drawings. And this is called as something unseen and something unknown, because something unseen and something unknown surrounded us all through the beginning days of pandemic, all through the beginning days of lockdown. I mean, you were only with your ideas and if at all some material available, and so we kept on working with this. This again in twigs and uh, Bhutanese handmade paper. Next, please. So it was very interesting at my place, especially. I don't know if it was found in Delhi also. It was very interesting that uh, in my backyard I found a number of new birds coming in, because I think the environment for them got cleaned up, and we had lots of birds which I had never seen in my backyard. We have a mango tree in the backyard of our house, and we lots of new birds coming and making wonderful chirps. And there were number of plants which started growing in the backyard. Even the pines, I don't know from where the seeds would come. And uh, this has got a story. In fact, in Kashmir, we have got an implement with which we used to, drive away snow from rooftops when we didn't have iron rooftops. So the implement, if translated word by word, it would be called as the snow tree. With that, we would push the snow down. Because the trees had a transformation, and I formed the shape of a tree. It's reclined, but it has got an a branch-like thing which is gold leaf on it, and this is called as you know the snow tree returned with a tattoo this season. It was just to positivate the whole feeling. Yeah. Snow tree comes with a tattoo. It comes anew. It comes afresh. The things which we had lost uh, with climatic change, with whatever we have done with environment, that started finding its own place and came back. So because I had to use a modern kind of very contemporary kind of symbol, so I used tattoo with a tree, and the tree comes back with a tattoo. So all these works are small because I had to do it in a very limited space, which you will see a little later, and I had to handle. In fact, I have always been handling my work with my two hands, and unless and until I do that, I do not get satisfaction and I do not get the required results also, because material, as I told you, has been very, very important to me, and I handle material with whatever way I can do. So this is again the cured twigs with a little of color and some gold leaf. Next. Now, as I told you that certain trees started growing again, I call it as a resurrection of environment through the bad times for human beings. Uh, this, if you see on the right hand side of it, there is a little of green color, and this work is called as, this is again cured twigs joined together and with some length of jute rope tied, because when we have to support trees, I am from a village, when we had to support trees, we had to tie ropes and keep the tree upright and so on. So this work, which should not be more than a foot, more than 1.5 foot by 1 foot, and this is called as the greens started uploading, the tree resurrected slowly but definitely. This is again, this is a positive message about the improvement of environment through lockdown. You will see next slide, please. This is the display of this work. I mean, again, a pedestal and a glass cubicle in which it will be placed so that it is safely kept in any exhibiting place. Next slide, please. Now this is the combination of, as I told you that I am deeply interested in materials and their combinations, and trying to put materials in an innovative way. So this is called as shrine. This is the combination of a sandstone block and again cured twigs with jute knots, because my home is a place of shrines. In Kashmir, we have lots and lots of shrines, and we used to believe in the shrines, and we do it now also. And a shrine would be, any place which was made extraordinary out of ordinary by doing certain practices. For example, by placing a stone, by tying threads around it, by smearing it with vermilion, or by tying wish knots, and so it would become a shrine over a period of time. That's the concept I have been using in my work sometimes, and this is what occurred to me through the lockdown, and I did this work, and it was possible for me to complete my work in the small home studio, and that's how it came to be. This almost 1.5 foot and maybe 6 inches and 4 inches. Next. This another view, top view of the same work. These twigs go through the sandstone, and I mean they hold the stone, and they become the part of the composition also. Next, please. Next, please. Now this is called as germination, where I use the splitting of a seed and then the branches coming out, which I told that in the lockdown time, the environment got improved. Possibly it had lesser human intervention, lesser traffic, or lesser, uh, you know, lesser smoke around. So it, at my place at least, I saw that environment got. So it was also an attempt to find the positivity in the gloomy atmosphere of uh, lockdown. So this is wood, gold gilded wood with some thread. If you see next, next slide, please. This is how I suture it, because I believe that nature had to be repaired, so I sutured it to keep it together and not to let it fall. So it is sutured. One piece of it is sutured. There is a crack, and that crack is sutured. Sometimes I do these things. Even if there is not a natural crack, I create a crack and then suture it just to symbolize that I want to keep everything in life together, because otherwise life falls apart. So I just try to keep it together, and I use sutures and nails and pegs to put it together. So this work is called this almost 1.5 foot by 1 foot by 10 inches, and this is gold gilded twigs and wooden pieces. Next, please. This again is called as the tree resurrects. Uh, you will see uh, a green and gold area on top of it, and it is in position of getting upright. So a very simple expression of material of tree and getting resurrected, getting to life again. And this should be 1.5 foot tall and almost 10 inches by 10 inches. Next. This is mysterious moon princess growing up on Earth as the adopted daughter of a bamboo cutter and his wife. As per the Japanese folklore, Moon was an adopted daughter of a bamboo cutter and his wife, who brought her up as a princess. 2020 April, 9 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches, wood with acrylic color, gold leaf. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is the visualization of a story from Japanese folklore, which I pick up books which I have, and I read certain interesting stories or elements from book, and then I just try to visualize them. So this is the visualization of what I read prior to it. So this is again twigs and a little of color and gold leaf. The moon princess is sitting on top of the tree. So uh, I told you that I was trying to play something which lightens up the environment as a whole, because everything had become so difficult. Even uh, we experienced such an environment of fear that one had to pass through it. So that's how I picked up these small little stories, small little snippets, and did visualization and materialization of whole of that. Next, please. Now this is what I call as a room does not remain a room if you cannot use it as a room. This is my bedroom, which I turned to a working studio through the COVID time, and got all the materials which I had in the backyard of my house, and I got all that together. You will find these twigs fallen there, and you will find certain things which are colored and certain which are wrapped up. So I kept on doing all these things and wrapping them up and just stacking wherever I could. And of course, with this chair where I would sit for some time and look at these things and look the possibilities of altering the composition or improving it or making it better or changing it altogether. So everything happened in this room where I had you know a kind of I could not use even the fan because when you use gold leaf you have even to hold your breath. Otherwise, what, as soon as you open it, flies away. So I was working in very odd conditions, but of course they were very, very conducive for me for the use of material because I had to join many things and glues were better in hotter conditions and I had to do the gold plating and so it does better in hotter conditions. So I did all the work. So my bed, maybe you'll see next picture, my bed is all loaded with such works, and in addition to this I worked a lot on paper. Is all, I mean, all those things are lying on my bed and I would just sit on this rug with of which you see the corner and uh, you know sometimes stand up and sit in the chair and look at the things and feel very contented, feel very satisfied that I am not wasting my time and that I am not wasting my time complaining. Next slide, please. This is what I call this. When your room becomes a room which you no more can use as your room, then it is called a makeshift studio. This is what I call it. And this is one of, I keep writing down the notes. Next slide. Next slide. This is another view of, you know, my clothes lying on certain wooden structures and all these things scattered in files and because I do use a lot of files and chisels while working on wood and then I had to keep everything wrapped every time because our place is a dusty place, windy place, so you have to protect everything. So, but it was very good experience doing the work all to yourself and all within limitations and where you could apply best of your mind on whatever was available to you as material. Next. This another of the trees which I have repaired by suturing it because there was a crack and it was fallen now because again as green started uploading, the tree resurrected slowly but certainly. So it is diagonal and diagonal is always supposed to be going towards vertical and vertical means that growth has established and it is growing upwards. So that's why I have placed it diagonal because it is in process of becoming vertical and becoming a full-fledged resurrected tree. So all the material is again cured twigs, a jute thread with which I have sutured, and a little of green and some gold leaf. The green indicates a life coming back to the tree. So and tree getting resurrected. This should be almost 1.5 foot tall and maybe 10 inches in breadth and 6 inches in another dimension. So, but all of them are, we call them as small sculptures. Next. I have written what is fundamentally important is that creativity should rather be aimed at attaining independence that in turn imparts visual impact and aesthetic strength to a work of art and establishes its contemporaneity. For us, the practitioners of art, it is an important phenomenon that needs to be internalized and an attitude that helps us to imbibe tradition and make efforts to transcend it to build a new psychological makeup which is firmly rooted and hence continuously growing. It's from one of my artist's statements. I had written an artist statement along with the application for Gottlieb grant, which was called as tradition, continuity, and contemporaneity. I tried to, show how important uh, it is for us to imbibe tradition and how it um can be continued and how it gets transpired into contemporaneity. So that was my project. The whole project was called as Tradition, Continuity, and Contemporaneity. This is a snippet from that project, that concept note which I had written for my application for the Gottlieb grant. Next, please. This is very simple to it. This is called as mother and daughter. We had in we may call it a traditional sculpture. We have this tradition of making uh, mother and child, uh, and I mean these were some of the fundamental exercises we would do while learning to do sculpture. So it reminds me of those exercises. One of the most simplified exercise of mother and daughter, how they cling with each other, and this is just two or three twigs which I joined together. And this is a very small work. Next, please. Another view of the same thing. So I just wanted to show the affection in between to the way the two support each other. So generally we did mother and child, but in particular, I call this mother and daughter because daughters are always more uh, associated and attached, more affectionate, and more loving with their parents. Next, please. These are two or three works on paper. Uh, this was this. In fact, these were exhibited also through the COVID times, and thi- this is called as uh, earlier we were told that we lived in the line of snow. Next, please. Then some people said that now we came in the line of black snow. It is a kind of political statement regarding the situation in our place, because government issues certain statements which are always false, and so sometimes we were told that you are in the line of snow, so we would have white snow. In Kashmir, we have a proverb: if it, if something untoward happens, we call that it was something like black snow. So our residences, our adobes houses, they were all they got topsy-turvy, and government said, I mean, the people in power, they would all sometimes say, "Nazar lag gayi." These things did not suit my sensibilities. So it's just these are called as excerpts from the white paper issued some years before. I mean, the statements of administration, which are just not founded anywhere. They're just something mythical and something false. So this was just to express that. Next please. So this is again this has got a because these were these were my entries for an exhibition which was based on घर, मतलब जहाँ हम रहते हैं. It was curated by Priyag Shukla and Tulti Chauhan of uh, Gallery Threshold, and the curators had given us the subject of the house world. So this is the materialization of one verse which I have calligraphed below it also. जिसमें ऐसा मकान है जिसमें रहने वाला नजर नहीं आता. So house more than a building is a concept which we carry, and so this poet has compared that with the body, and जिसमें रहने वाला नजर नहीं आता, we do not know who lives in that. So this is again the cured twigs with jute threads, and this is all mounted on Bhutanese paper, which is also worked, and this stands in a glass box. Next. Now these are two or three of my latest sculptures, and if it was seen closely, this is called as Surrendered Its Last Flower, Tree Becomes an Icon. This is all wood, and the gold gilded portion is gold gilded mild steel. So it is in adoration of a tree which surrenders its last flower and then becomes the icon. The whole two pieces of wood, these are joined with another piece which is flowering, and whole of it is painted with minute detail. Maybe you will see in a close-up which comes next. Next please. This is another view of the same. Please go to the next. Yes. This is a close-up of this work, which is called as Surrendered Its Last Flower, Tree Becomes an Icon. I have used the sutures here also, and it is gold gilded, and the flower, the particular shape of flower is in iron, mild steel, but it is gold gilded. So this sculpture lies on the ground because it is fallen now, but has become an icon, and it is painted in lot of detail, many motifs pertaining to trees and earth and heaven. Next, please. This again, you saw for the germination. This is called as birth of a stupa. Stupas are structures like which comes out. So this again, gold gilded wood with sutures. Next, please. This is the another view of the same work. All these materials available with me already, wood and gold leaf. Of course, I had a lot of gold leaf. I always keep gold leaf with me, and so I did this. The shape in growing up from middle is the undercar, which is just like a stupa, and there is a kind of chhatri on top. And I have treated it in my view. So this is called as birth of a stupa. It's almost 1.5 foot by 1 foot by 10 inches. Next, please. Now this is one of my freshest works, which before coming to Delhi I just packed it up and kept it properly. This again called as surrendered its last flower, the tree becomes a deity. Now, kindly see this work. As a tree, it is not standing on ground, because it has severed its relations with ground, and it has lifted up and surrendered its last flower. And on top, you will see in the detail, on top, it takes the shape of of a of a of a deity, of something unseen, some. You will see. Please, next slide, please. Now this is a close up of this, and on top you will see this. There's a horn figure like thing, and this is the deity. And now I have again sutured this, and it has got a little of gold leaf at certain places and a little of color at certain places to just give it the shape of a deity. And the flower is, you will see it inverted because it is surrendered, and tree has severed its relations with earth, and it comes to the wall and becomes the deity. Please show the next. You will see more of detail of this. Next slide, please. See, this is how the deity looks. Again, this is all wood and treated with a little of gold foil, and try to, I have always been so impressed with Egyptian and Hittite and Assyrian art, and the gaze Egyptian works and Assyrian, especially Hittite works had. So this has always remained my very intense love. So I have just tried to create that kind of antiquity in this work, and that's how the tree, which just starts growing to the sky because it severes its relations with earth, growing towards sky makes it a deity. And unless and until we treat our trees like that, we are going to damage our environment more than what we have done up till now. Next slide, please. This is a very close up of the same work which I've just completed. Uh, the blue here stands for merging with broader environment, skies. Next, please. This is called as the flights in the limited sky. This again depicts the story of flights in the limited sky. This depicts a book which is, but at the same time it is like wings of a bird, and it like flight, and the sky is just in a cubicle. It's blue. You will see it in the next picture. And this work has got the wood, some text and threads. So text makes it somewhat readable, and the sky has been painted blue. I have used some very Sharda text in it. Sharda is the ancient Kashmiri script, and I pasted at places and then washed it white, and then the cubicle is painted blue from inside, so it stands for sky. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. It's like this. Uh, from behind it hangs on the wall, and it protrudes out from the wall, and you can see the blue sky and the wings spreading in shape of a book. I believe this is the last slide, and thank you very much for seeing and hearing me.
Thanks, Mr. Tikku. It was a most wonderful presentation.
Thank
And
you.
now we have Samit Das. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. thanks to Raza Foundation and India International Center. Thank you, Ashok ji. Thank you all for joining today. The material and artistic language is a long-term interest for me. Then past a few years, the thought started more percolation within my mind. There is a limited access, less scope for final execution, availability, and many more. I also have a long-term interest in archaeology and physical archives. The first edition art books are also an excellent source for relooking at the idea of materiality. The location of my studio gave me an enormous scope to rethink with materials, including my small library with primary resources. Today, I will share some fragments of my thought, intervention, and reinterpretation with available materials. Maybe I never thought that I would come back to them again. That's the reason I kept this title, The Matter of Miracles and Reinterpretation. Thank you all. 3 years back, this photograph I have received from Dr. Pratapaditya Pal, and this is, you can see, Kumar Swami's study in his home at Needham, Massachusetts. And I think most of the people that how Kumar Swami was very, very meticulous about his writings and his research and publications and the kind of work he did in his lifetime. But when I saw this photograph, I thought, no, he must be organized within this kind of a superficial mess, what I feel, or maybe apparently people may feel. But I think he was so organized. So this is a kind of a image which is really, really inspiring to look back, to work with material and looking back to the history of materiality and how it can come to the artistic interpretation. This image, you can see, is a broken god and goddesses, which is kind of a commonly seen the roadside of India. Of course, the same material, but it has a very different value before worship and after worship. And the middle one and the last one, the right one, it's a again symbolic god and goddesses sculpture. They're made of ice because during the summer they make it with the ice and it should remain for 4 or 5 hours, so devotees can worship, they can pray their offerings, whatever. Because in northern India it called the Bhagavati Jagaran, it's a awakening the god or something like that. So there's a huge crowd happen, and I find the using of this material, this ice, is quite fascinating for me. Of course, it is it's a temporary, it's ephemeral, and which kind of serve the purpose. So these are certain fragments and facts in my visual journey where I think it just brought me to rethink about material. This image is from the Sarojini Nagar township, which is now demolished in Delhi, in South Delhi. And when I went to the site, I find it's a huge ruin, it's an urban ruin. Of course, when it was not ruined that time, it has a vibrant life, it has a different stories. Every family, they have a different narrations in their life, but everything somehow transformed into a rubbles. Again, the transforming the material within time frame and with a system as well, because it is a system, the government, they want to demolish, to make something new or different, whatever. But those materials those are involved with this township, they are no more. Their voice, their story probably ended up here. Left hand side, you can see it's a very common view of the building construction. Of course, this building construction material is quite important in city life because it is an intricate part of a city. The entire urban life always have a dialogue with this material, whether it is a positive, whether it is a negative, whether it is a construction, whether it is a deconstruction. And the right side one is a relief accidentally happened my studio terrace. While I was taking casting, the mold was not well packed, so the POP, liquid POP, has got flooded from the hole, and it created another image, another relief work on the floor. And I just kept it like that. I thought, okay, let's see how it looks and till what time or which time period it remains there. It is still there actually in this impression because this photograph taken only few days back. Every material has its own way to speak. Every material has its own way uh, to describe their aesthetics. And these are certain things, of course, during this strainful time, this unprecedented time. We try to look back, at least I try to look back on something maybe I never thought that I will look back. Like this is the inside of the laserjet cartridge. This cartridge has got over, the ink got over, and I tried to open. And of course, once I was opening, I find it's a multi-layered of architecture. It's like a huge tower building. Once you break it, you get a lot of stories within it. This is how it is. It's the same. It's maybe just a 12 inches or 10 inches height. It's like a tower building, but it has its own detailed story within it. The middle one is the casting from the plastic packing which comes via e-commerce, and of course there's e-commerce company, the product company, they make it for their own product. They make the concaves and convex facility to accommodate the object. But once you have a plaster casting or cement casting, whatever, it gives another story. It creates a new dialogue with you. And this one is a palette wood which is lying uh, my studio open terrace. It is getting seasoned with the weather, rain, and everything. It has got anti-termite, it's got a paint, PU, everything. But again, the wood was pallet wood. It has its own story when it comes through a packing box. But now it is building up another story. So this is my studio where I work, and this is the makeshift studio at home I made during the lockdown. That time you can't go anywhere. So I thought, no, I have to work. And during the lockdown, this home studio gave me a facility to work with the collage, drawing, experimenting with papers. I mean, layering the paper, of course, multi-layering and cutouts through the cardboard boxes which comes through e-commerce again. So those cardboard boxes I started rebuilding up with the multi-layering and cutting the edges to create a different drawing aid. And this is the studio where I work regularly, where you can see there's an endless material and how I deal with the material. There are a lot of tools to work. It's like a DIY workshop. So every day it has kind of a new episode to look at the material. And this is why the new imagery, I never thought that I will do a photography on that. The spine, the old book spine. The spine itself is narrating one story. And once you open the book, it has its own story. What author has detected or whoever it's written, image and text. But this image itself creating another story. So this is the material, this is the surface which is doing it. And the right hand side is the small corner of my studio at home. Makeshift, you can see, is just a small 4x6 mattress and working with those cardboards and cutouts and papers and certain leftover this soap solutions bottle, some packing box material, so on. I'm using it, which I never thought that I will use it for my art practice. Of course, it is not just a art, but it is also a process to make your own things to access within a studio, makeshift studio. So this is the casting I made. The previous image, the last, you have seen that floor got some instant relief accidentally. So this is the main work actually. While I'm doing it, that relief has created. So I got a two work accidentally actually. So this one, the other one. Again, it is sitting outside. It is in the open terrace, and it has its own way to develop. And let's see how it goes. And this is the same way. This POP and cement pieces and the broken lock. It's all here. There's a white filler, a wood filler. It is also there. Somehow they are decaying. Somehow they are discharging the color. Many things happening. But I want to see it where they go, because this is what I have learned from the Megchand while I was sitting with him in 2001, and he kept many things outside of his room. And I asked why so, and he said they are getting seasoned with the water, the sunlight, the rain, whatever, the extreme hot, extreme cold, because he needs to make the rock garden, and that has to go with the nature and weather situation. So that's the very, very interesting seasoning process. And it remains in my mind. And I thought, since I have space, I should use this experimentation with my limited facility. And this is casting I made out of those plastic boxes which comes through the e-commerce, and which again gives a feel of the archaeological pieces. Of course, it is a personal archaeology, definitely, because I'm creating all the pieces and bits and watching it for hours, watching it for weeks, months, and years, and let's see where it goes, because I don't know what to build out of it, and what will be the final product, a final outcome. There is no kind of a preconceived mind. It's just excavation happening right now, and perhaps one day something will come out. It's like archaeology. One day you discover the whole object. Well, while I'm discovering this, also I'm creating these cardboard boxes with a different treatment, like a paint, like anti-termite, like a potassium sulfide. There are many things to remain it for a longer time, because as you know that cardboard is not a very permanent thing. So making it permanent, again transforming material into a different way. And this never came up as a subject of art and experimenting with my daily practice. And this is a photograph I made out of the analog darkroom. It is called Photogram. And last 2 years only it has started again, because I was thinking how to develop all these images in some point, the collaging with this experimentation to embed it somewhere on the surface. So I find this Photogram is a very interesting technique to work on. So that's how it happened. And you can see how this home studio is happening. I have created the new drawing aid with the cardboard pieces using C-clamp for the weight, and the whole boxes and packaging, it is transforming its own way, and I'm looking at it. And you know, when you are staying most of the time at home, you realize certain new things. So this is one very interesting for me, these pencil boxes or pen boxes, which I never thought that I will use it. So I started using it, and then I find I don't like the upper surface, the top. Then I just change the whole identity with the cutout of the cardboard. So this is quite fascinating when you work with a different material, staying at home longer time, staying at studio longer time, and you re-excavate and you re-examine with the same object and same material, and it comes with a new vocabulary. And definitely the physical material is one side, and also the software, the digital technology, because you also spend time with the computer and software, and normally you experiment with the graphic software like Illustrator, Photoshop, so on. But this time I have experimented with the scientific software, and I'm not the expert of scientific software. This is just accidentally happened. Those images I have created, and I find, well, this is something coming out which really I wanted, and it is very similar and resonating. My cutouts, these piece and beats, and everything is just jigsaw puzzle. The mechanic jigsaw puzzles is just building up through the software. So this is the kind of a work I have created on paper and canvas, and of course I have done watercolor on that, and tried my best to give it a permanency for a longer time. So again, this is a view of this home studio floor. You can see how these cardboard cutouts creating spine, and giving some kind of a feeling of a architectural column. And this is also creating these different modes of these drawings. And while I'm sitting on a small table working with the computer, when I'm delivering this lecture from this table only, this small table has a multiple function. The one is, of course, you can see the desktop screen, which is here permanently. The lights are here. There is a laptop, sometimes it's here. And when the laptop is not there or book is not there, this board is here. On the top of the board, I keep the paper and I do drawing, collages, and of course I need certain accessories to keep around here. And you see how the whole vision has changed of the computer table, and that is also creating another city, another architecture, another abstraction. And once you close to it, you can feel the different abstract motifs out of it. And over the drawing, it is the detail of the drawing where I have created this perforative surface, this embossing, the dotted lines. The dotted lines has a very interesting statement, because it's not the fixed line, it is not the confident line perhaps for me, because I'm also looking at it. It's a trying, it's a search process. So I'm just giving suggestion, but the suggestion is also saying a very different language. And these photograph from again Sarojini Nagar township, and I find this is a interesting mapping of the house. Of course, those who lived in the house, they don't have any sentiment of this line, because they have a sentiment to the house. So once it is broken, they had a very different feeling. They lost their house. But I'm looking at it in a graphically, or in a another historical image. Okay, somehow these lines has been embossed, this engraved, this curved in a different way. It's the mark of a demolition, and demolition has its own thoughts, own narration. And this is something with the old historical architectural plan. And I thought, why not to come back as a rebuilding process of the lost geometry? Well, the lost geometry and combination of the new geometry, uh, I always work with those areas, and it creating a new abstraction that's happening. And you can see how I'm using with this projector set square many things to create that geometry, and finding the lines, finding the right directions, so on. This is a small animation I have created, where the time is not really uh, freezing, but at the same time, time has frozen. We think that it's not going anywhere. And this image is again from the Sarojini Nagar township. This is a dry leaves on the car bonnet. It's all very different material in the urban area, and you try to feel what is their world. I mean, when you are in a busy city life, you are moving fast, you don't watch it actually, you don't notice all these things. And here, this ink cartridge I have opened, and one day I thought I should photograph it. This is talking about a different urban scape. And this is also from my studio terrace, where I kept these wooden pieces, and it is getting acclimatized with the weather. Of course, it has its own protection like anti-termite, PU, and many other materials, but still it is lying outside to observe it, how they perform with the weather. And some years, past years, I was collecting these broken nails and screws and nut and bolts and all, and I put them into a water bucket to create a kind of a rusty effect. Of course, they got rust, they get a different transformation, and then I bring back to my work and incorporate with my drawing to create a new language. And this is the casting which is again lying on the terrace, and it is somehow transforming with his own way. The surface got some kind of a decaying and all, but it is not that decay, but a little bit of. And here you can see how the navigation people realize when they stay back at home for longer time. The stone joint, the marble line, and all, which come back again into the art practice as a drawing and plan of the architecture. Because many of these small details you don't realize again when you have a busy city life. But once you are settled at home and sitting more hours, then you realize it. And of course, those rusted and rotten iron pieces I kept on the drawing and collages what I made and started looking at a new story, building up a new narration. This is the same thing that a new drawing aid has been created with the different cardboard boxes and cutouts, and these old structures fragments is incorporating with the new structure, because always India has a very strong decorative and geometry, weird geometry sometime within the cityscape. And here's some details of the material which I use for my work from the home studio. You can see it's a very interesting Fevicol bottle I cut down and make a holder for a brush. This brush is normally used for applying Fevicol on paper surface or clothes or whatever. So after applying the Fevicol, it remain wet and where to keep it. So this is where I made it, and it's very effective and it's still functioning. Here you can see the glance of the home studio, the makeshift space. This is a mattress and all sort of cutouts, these boxes, then small wooden pieces where I have transformed the surface of wooden piece with the paper collage. This is one folder. Again, the folder was from the Amazon, so that the whole Amazon logo and other things I have really changed with the collages. And also this hammer and the C clamp I'm using as a weight, because there is not such huge weight I can get at home. So these are certain things I'm using it as a weight over there to fix it. And this is a whole idea of geometry, because once they are lying on the floor and I enter in the room and I started thinking about a new geometry, new abstraction, looking at certain images. So that's why I've recorded these images to remember within my mind, okay, this is a new combination is creating, because it is also a chimera. And while this building construction happening, I find always it's a new geometry while the construction process happened. This is from my studio. And of course, Indian city, most of the Indian cities has the idea of history and contemporary together, and the city lives with the history. So this is something that the temple architecture plan, and again I'm relooking at the plan because every ancient structure has a renovation, the changes and transformation. And this is a kind of a part of my studio. This is machine again, the light and shadow, which is created a new abstraction. And looking at this again, I have done some abstraction, the machine image with some fossil fish and many other things put together is a three, four, more than three, four layers, and the digital image has created. So out of those images, I make this small animation, and again, the little movement, it creates a different narration. So it's a very small animation. I can see once you're rotating uh, random mode you operate, you have a different feeling. This is a small corner of my home, and we never thought that I'll look at it in a different way. So how the time is kind of changing, how time is teaching us very different lesson. So this is how it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, friends, we had a very illuminating experience of three different artists working in three different ways to cope with the restrictions, the isolation, the solitude forced upon us by the corona pandemic and the lockdowns, etc. And it is very interesting to see how different materials that were available in these very constricted times were made use of to create art. I think it in a way vindicates our faith in human creativity under extremely unhelpful, adverse circumstances. Approval is all around for you to pick up and make art out of it. And this is what our three friends this evening have done in their different ways from and the um, range of coping. You're coping with two things simultaneously. One, with the dearth of the usual material, and on the other hand, you're also dealing with the absence of others in your life. And I think by having dealt with this crisis, all the three of you have come out gloriously. And I think that is what we learn from you all. It is in the worst of times possible to be human, to be creative, to be imaginative and innovative, and to create art with whatever material in such circumstances you can lay your hands on. So, thank you very much. It was a very interesting evening, and we are grateful to Rajendra Tikku, to Kausik Mukhopadhyay, and Samit Das for sparing their time and to tell us about material and their art practices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.